Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. And now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce from Conversations with Friends, actors Joe Alwyn, Jemima Kirke, Sasha Lane, and Alison Oliver. Thank you all so much for being here.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, it's nice to see you all getting along because I've watched you fighting. This is actually an audience of your fellow SAG-AFTRA actors, so I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card? And I want to start with Alison because I don't know if you've worked in the States. I'm not sure if you know what a SAG card is, if it's something that you aspire to.
I actually don't know what it is. No, I don't.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm new to it, but
you will learn. It's kind of like the British equivalent of, I guess, what do you guys have? Equity?
Equity. Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask what your first job as an actor was then?
Me. This for Conversations with Friends. Yeah, that was my first job.
Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Does anyone warn you that it's all downhill from here?
Oh yeah, I think I was told I peaked too soon, which I think is probably true. So yeah.
Well, I suspect we'll be welcoming you to the union soon. Let me ask the Americans. Sasha, what about for you?
I know I've been in this for a minute, but I have no idea. How do you get them?
I'm really not good at this either.
Yeah.
And I know that I have one.
Yes.
I have one. I have. And and I've gotten the DVDs in the mail.
That's it.
Oh, like the
DVDs for your consideration.
Oh, like screeners.
Screeners, yeah. From a SAG and yeah, but I got mine in a very, not that you asked, but I'm gonna respond anyway. But I think mine all happened kind of at once. Like I actually I got the job on Girls, and I didn't have an agent, and I didn't have a manager, and I didn't have a SAG membership. I had nothing. So, and I was newly had a baby, and so I had an agent come to my house for a meeting to see if I wanted at about 8 o'clock at night, maybe it was later, to ask if I wanted to work with her. I was like, yes, I have nothing to compare it to. It'd be great to work with you. And then they were like, well, we're gonna have to set you up with SAG, with the SAG membership, and we have to do this and that. And I'm like, great, let's do it.
Oh my God.
It was, an extremely privileged beginning that I am endlessly grateful for, and not to mention down to the detail of coming to my house.
I love that you hit upon the important thing, which is that your dues are all paid up and you get the screeners.
It's just the evidence that it's that it's there.
Sasha, I'm going to guess it was American Honey because that was your first American movie?
I think so, because I remember then I was like hearing about SAG. Like I started very naive. I still have no idea half the time what I'm doing and what things mean. But I only just recently, they're like, we're updating your card. And I was like, there's a card? But yeah, I don't know how I got it, but I think American Honey, that was obviously just a weird time for me. I didn't know anything. So I'm just riding on that faith. Yeah.
Joe, what about for you? Do you know what film it was or show?
I mean, again, I definitely have one, I think, because I get things in the post. So I think it must have been, the first movie I did, which was an American film. So I assume it was off the back of that.
I like to keep mine in my wallet.
I don't know where my card is.
And flash it to people and be like, do you know who I think I am? I have to remember.
Well, again, we're here today with Conversations with Friends, which is based on the acclaimed 2017 novel by Sally Rooney, brought to life by the same team who previously adapted Normal People for the screen. I'm curious for each of you how the project found its way to you, and if you were at all familiar with the book, because I know people who are very, very passionate about this book, and I'm embarrassed to say I was not familiar with it. And let's start with Sasha.
I was not aware of the books beforehand, but it was when I got the audition for Conversations with Friends that I asked for the book because there was no script that they had handed over. And it was kind of the equivalent of reading a script for me to know if I want to do the project, if I'm interested in, the character. And I read it within the day and started watching Normal People at the same time. And obviously I really enjoyed it. And I think I did my audition like shortly after, but I read the book in like 2 hours. So it was good. Yeah.
Did you immediately respond to the character of Bobby?
I did. And I think I also kind of responded to the fact that I wanted to do more with Bobby than what was written. And I think that was maybe what kind of made me like, I have to get this role. I have to get this role. And I liked the relationship with like Francis. I liked the whole big idea of messy relationships and complicated people. And yeah.
Joe, what about for you? I believe you were at least familiar with the book.
Yeah, I was. I'd read both Conversations with Friends and Normal People when they came out, and was a big fan of Sally Rooney's writing anyway. So, and that was pre Normal People being a show, so I was kind of very aware of her and a big fan. And so when I heard they were making this off the back of Normal People as well, I was a big fan of Lenny as well as a filmmaker. So it was just like, yeah, it was. I would have signed up blind, having not read the scripts, but I loved the book. I loved the characters that she creates generally. I think they were so kind of complex and grounded and flawed and relatable in different ways. And I just thought like what it's asking at its heart, as well as being like a very moving coming of age story. I liked what it was about. I liked that it was messy and complicated, and asking if you can love more than one person at once, and can you love outside of, conventional constructs of relationships. I just thought it was interesting and moving.
I'm not saying this happened, but when you read the book, was there a part of you that started thinking, I would really like to play Nick if they ever make something of this?
I don't think there was. I wish I could say there was, but I think like I just read it as a fan first and foremost whenever it came out. But reading it again, I mean, I then looked at it again, obviously, when I heard they were making it or when they were sending sides to audition with. And yeah, I mean, then I was like, I really want this. I want to do this.
You had the healthy approach, I think. Otherwise, I would never enjoy reading if I was always trying to put it in my mind. Jemima, what about for you?
No, I'd never heard of Sally Rooney when I was asked to audition. I just read the material, the script, before the sides, before I read the book. I read the book after I got the job. And I just thought that I wish I could say it was strategic, but it was, I mean, there was a timing issue, but they also, I think if I really believed that I had to read the book before I auditioned, I would have. But I do think that there's something to be said for just focusing on the material that was in front of me, the 3 pages that I had to get through, and my take on that without needing to know the entire context. But, once once I was cast and I'm reading it, I never have read it really with fresh eyes. I've read it always with the point of view of who is Melissa, because that is my job, and so Melissa's always been me, even reading it.
Yeah. So Alison, I'm dying to hear who you are, where you came from, how they discovered you. It's such an amazing debut. Where did it even begin?
Thank you. Similar to Joe, I'd read both Normal People and Conversations with Friends before I auditioned. I went to college in Dublin, so it was kind of like those books were kind of everywhere, and everyone was kind of reading them, and so I was really aware of Sally and like a massive fan. I just think she's incredible, and everyone kind of, I think, flocks to her work because it's so kind of I don't know, she just describes things that I think are difficult to describe, but she kind of really gives space for how her characters are, I guess, going through like coming of age things or love or heartbreak, and she really kind of lets that have the weight that it feels when you experience those things. And so I think people just feel really kind of understood, and it's also just really interesting. I think I felt really like nostalgic, I remember, when I read those books, because I was kind of finishing college, and it was just a really kind of recognizable, familiar world to me, I think. And so I kind of got an audition tape in then a couple of months after I read Conversations with Friends, which was kind of a weird thing that I just happened to read it, and then an audition came around, and I was just so excited to be auditioning, because I think I had such an idea of who those characters were in my head that it was really fun to like try and step inside of that myself. And yeah, so I just felt so lucky to be auditioning for like Lenny and everyone at Element and stuff. So it was a really kind of just exciting time, I think.
How many auditions do you think you went through?
I think I did 3. I did like a self-tape, and then I think I did like a Zoom with Lenny, and then I met him in person. So it was kind of, yeah, and I think when you're doing those things, like for me, I definitely was like, oh, isn't this great? But like I never was like, oh, I'm gonna get, I don't know, I just thought it was such a wonderful experience to get to be doing that. And then when it kind of was coming more towards the end, I was like, oh God. But yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, and obviously a show like this is so contingent upon the cast and the chemistry that you all have. You all work so well together. Was that pretty instant, or was there anything that you could do to sort of develop that? Just like Alison and Sasha, you really feel like people who have known each other for years. And I don't know how you fake that.
You don't. I like, thankfully we got along really well. I think even just when I was auditioning and I did the chemistry with her, I was already just like, oh, you're the perfect friend. So I was already happy with that. And then we met in person, and I think we just were like weirdly giddy with each other. And then as soon as I got to Belfast, I think you came over and we just hung out. It was very easy to get along with her. She's obviously a gem. And then that just translated. And then we spent a lot of time on set together.
Yeah. So. And I think, like, I remember Sasha's audition so well. And I just remember having this feeling of, like, when you came on, I was like, oh, there's Bobby. Like, I just knew straight away. Like, she was just the most perfect Bobby. And I think the first maybe 2 weeks of filming, it was literally just me and Sasha in Frances's apartment, and kind of having that time to just really, just spend so much time and really get to know each other, and also get to know Frances and Bobby and how they are with each other. I think those things just kind of kick in pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially because it was almost awkward, because we're sort of filming like the be best friends and other scenes, and we were like, cheddar cheese, and I was like going off these weird tangents of things to talk about. And I think because if we can have those like to talk about things, and it just like broke the ice. Yeah, it just made it. It just made it simple.
You're making the audition process sound fun, which is not something you normally get from acting.
It was like pressure, but I think I had it in my mind that I was going to be Bobby, and I knew she was exactly Frances when we met. It was just, and Lenny's he's such a sweetheart. He's so kind-hearted, and like you feel really safe with him. And so it didn't feel as intimidating as it would if it felt like a stale room and everyone was against you. It felt like, I want this role. I really think that I should have this role, and I'm gonna work hard for it. But if I don't get it, which I will get it, then it would have been a great experience. I met really nice people, and I got to be in front of Lenny, and it was cute.
He almost makes the auditions feel like a workshop, I think, rather than like it's like a rehearsal or something like that. And he just has this ability to really put you at ease as soon as you come in. And like I definitely felt like, even when I was auditioning, when I was auditioning with Sasha and stuff, that like it just felt like we already had the part, or like when I was kind of, it felt like you already had the part when you were auditioning, and that we were like rehearsing,
it wasn't like, okay, moving on. It just was like, oh, let's try it this way, let's try it that way. And I was gauging off the laughs before I went into the room. There was another girl auditioning, and I could hear them laughing, and I was like, but then you just realize like they're just good company, and I'm like, but then I left, and I was like,
I think that's the thing, isn't it? An audition method technique is to go in there as if you have the part already. Yeah. Like, not in terms of confidence, in terms of how you play it. Yeah. It's your character now for those 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I love that. And Joe and Jemima, similarly, the two of you really do feel like you've had this long-term relationship. And I mean that in all the good and bad that entails. I don't know if you had any kind of a chemistry read, or it was one of those things where you appeared on set and
We've been married for years.
No, we're here to tell you that, actually. We're finally ready to break the news.
So method.
No, I think that no, there wasn't a chemistry read for that. The only chemistry read I had was with Francis. I think to see if I could scare the living crap out of you for a moment. And I knew what my job was. But you know, we had one of the things that Lenny does that's so supportive and encouraging is he allows us all to be the acting nerds that we are, right? Because there's this weird thing that goes on sets sometimes where it's kind of dorky and to talk about acting or to be someone who studies. And, you know, you don't often hear about actors who are, you know, working with a coach or working with or going to a class on the weekends. You know, if they are, it's not something they're talking about. And I think that because of Lenny's passion for and need for this to be so precise, he needed us to be really focused on the performance. And because, as you said, it's so performance heavy, that's all there is performance, you know. That's where everything happens. And so, you know, it was encouraged me to feel okay to reach out to Joe and be like, shall we meet for coffee? And, you know, I don't know who reached out to who, but it's not a competition. But
it's not a competition.
Fine. But one of us did. We both agreed. It was weird. It was just ding ding. But yeah, so and we talked about it, you know, and all of those you know conversations help so much.
Yeah. And like you said, Lenny was incredibly collaborative from the beginning. So he didn't just send us off on our own. I mean, from the second of being cast, he wanted to start a dialogue where he would send over the scripts and see what was working and what we responded well to or didn't respond well to, and
which is so rare.
And get on Zooms and talk about ideas and stuff. So it was nice not to turn up and feel like you were meeting everyone at the starting line.
We had rehearsals every few weeks. No, truly, and that shocks people who don't understand how sets can be, that there aren't rehearsals, but there just aren't. There's rehearsals on set on the day, but it's very rare to have rehearsals that the kind that we would have on a sort of weekly or every other week basis, where we would meet, either converse on the phone, or we would all meet up and sit with our scripts and talk with Lenny.
Yeah.
Was it per episode? Like you would do one episode at a time rehearsal?
It was usually an episode that maybe Lenny needed to iron some things out, and he would come to us, or something, or moments that were really important. I think,
Leanne
right?
did quite a bit of Leanne, who directed the second block, would have done rehearsals with us as well, and it was just that. It
was all part of it. It had to be. I think that was just the vibe from the get-go. Was this has to be. We carrying a lot of the responsibility. Yeah, because there are some scenes that do just feel big in terms of even length and kind of, I guess, you know, what it's doing storytelling wise, and also what's happening for the characters, like big shifting moments and stuff, and being able to actually just go into a room and just speak about it and like not feel rushed in that, and just to give it the space that it kind of needs, felt so crucial. And we got the kind of we were so lucky to get that, and that was kind of the environment that was set from the beginning, that we would kind of give things space if they needed it.
So Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you had chemistry reads with either of your leading ladies. Or I mean, you're just a good actor. Maybe that's where it comes in, but I don't know if you can explain how that works.
I just made some tapes. They sent me a few scenes and I taped for them, and I think it was around the time that they were casting Alison as well. And I think they cast you, and then like a week later, 10 days later, I found out I was cast. So it wasn't through a chemistry read. They did say at one point maybe we'll do a chemistry read, but then they were like, you're cast. And so, but then we met soon after on Zoom. in, you know, weird pandemic world, and spoke a lot through Lenny that way. And then a couple months later, we got to meet a couple months before shooting in Belfast with Lenny, and to kind of talk through everything. So we met then.
And I'm guessing the four of you probably spent a lot of time together, you know, making this series, and also under these strange conditions where you probably couldn't see many other people. That probably helped.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah. But, you know, rehearse and drink and go for a swim every night. It wasn't a bad life for those 6 months.
It was really
5 or 6 months.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Once you had all signed on, was there any special research or preparation? I'm asking the dorky stuff now. Just, you know, please be as dorky as possible. But I'm really curious. For starters, Joe, your character, he doesn't speak as much as you might expect. And I'm curious if, when you saw those scripts, if that was a challenge or maybe even kind of a relief.
No, I really like characters like that. And I think it's something that Sally does really well in her books. And I think it's something that Lenny is really well suited to. And was really keen, as was Lenny, as was everyone, to like interrogate those moments and those silences in between things when people can't communicate or don't know what they're feeling or don't know how to say what they're feeling, rather than just, you know, speaking your subtext or whatever all the time. I find it's more interesting, I think.
And harder to do, by the way. It's a challenge. It's something you guys do so well. I don't mean to interrupt you. So go on, keep going, and then I'll go. Then I'll go. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. When I first met Alison, I thought she's going to be really good at the silences, because when I read Frances for the first time, I was like, this is so much silent acting, you know, acting without conversations, and I didn't think as much of that for Nick's character, for Nick. But it is you know, when you see it, it is the case that something they share is they're always being, you know, talked over. Sorry, they're always being talked over by their other half, you know, and they want it that way. You know, it is, you know, designed by design.
Mm-hmm. I've never related more to a character than when you all are saying, like, I'll email. I'm really good at email.
Yeah.
That's how I'll communicate. Alison, what about for you? I mean, in addition to being your first role, which I'm sorry to keep harping on, Frances's struggle with endometriosis has really garnered praise from people for being so accurate. I'm curious if there was any specific research you put into that.
Yeah, I think like I definitely felt a really big responsibility to portray that on screen, and Lenny and Leanne and I all would have talked about, I guess, how we wanted to show that and approach it. And so we spoke to a doctor who specializes in endometriosis, and then we also spoke to a young woman who has endometriosis and was doing her dissertation on it as well. And so we had like you know, medical and personal kind of accounts of what it was like. And I think, you know, it's something that's kind of running alongside everything that's happening in her life during this time. And I guess that, you know, that's true of people, you know, who have endometriosis. It's this chronic pain, illness that they just have to deal with alongside everything else that they're going through in their life. And it's always there, and it's always kind of in them. And so I think just not shying away from, I guess, the pain of that and how kind of it affects your whole life, and also the emotional effects of it, and the moods and all of that. And so I think we kind of just speaking to people and then kind of looking at each kind of moment where we see her going through that, and you know, the level of pain in which she's experiencing, and I think, you know, hopefully people seeing that can feel like people who experience it feels authentic and truthful to them, and also, you know, people who don't know about it, it's so under discussed and yet so common that hopefully people can kind of learn from it a little bit more, I think.
Absolutely. Sasha, for you, how did you sort of prepare for this character, and how much of it all was the book a resource for you?
The The book I don't think was as much of a research for me as it would be for, like Alex's character, because I am through her lens and her perspective. I kind of had like the baseline of her, which I think from there, I just kind of took it as like a mission to just make her a bit more likable, to give her a bit more room to be understood of maybe why, you have some of her dialogue and you have her reactions to Frances and people around her, but then it stops there because then Frances turns the other way or she talks to someone else. And so it was really nice to be able to have the space when actually filming to say, well, now you have to look at me because there's another 15 seconds of my face in this scene, basically, and the dialogue, it's not just your half, it's my half as well.
Alison.
It's me too.
All right.
But I don't think it wasn't necessarily like research in the way of like, how do I build her? Because I felt like a deep sympathy for her, but it was more so, how would someone who is supposed to be the extrovert, whose best friend and someone that she's also, still have lingering feelings for, who is a complete introvert and is very emotional, but not expressive and does not speak. How would I want to discuss a topic with her? If she reacts to me, how would I be able to consume that and swallow it for later? And, so it's almost like controlling my emotions, but with someone else's dialogue. So whatever is written in the script, it's like, how would I be able to put that to where, what makes us believe that our friendship has lasted this long? That was more of my research, is like everything I said to you or looked at you was, okay, but we've lasted 4 years plus, So what I want to do is walk away, but what I won't do is stay in the room. So it's just, I had to think of those little things of how to get across while still being in the spirit of Bobby and how she's written in the book. So I like dance louder and stuff.
I noticed that there was an intimacy coordinator that you utilized on this show. I'm curious if that was a first for any of you, or maybe all of you.
The first for me, for sure.
First for me.
Thanks for all.
Yeah, I loved working with the intimacy coordinator. I've never worked with I didn't have any sex scenes, so I wasn't working with an intimacy coordinator.
So jealous.
So jealous. Only character who doesn't get laid in this whole series. But yeah, let's hear about your guys' experience with the intimacy coordinator, please. Enlighten me.
We worked with an intimacy coordinator called Ita O'Brien, and she's worked on loads of shows. Like, she was on Normal People as well, and I guess her role is to kind of come in and she looks at the scenes with you and Lenny or Leanne, and I guess you're just trying to figure out what story you're trying to tell with it, and how is this furthering their relationship, or what it's doing story wise, and you'll choreograph it with her, and she'll kind of try out shapes, and then you kind of copy that, and so you really know the physicality of it and the choreography when you kind of go to do it, so that you're able to just really think about your character and what they're going through or what they might be feeling in that moment, rather than having to worry too much about anything else, and so it's a really kind of like brilliant system, and I think it's a standard that's kind of been set now in the industry and is kind of expected, which I think is really positive thing. So yeah,
it gives it like a nice technical freedom. Like once you almost get to go, okay, now let's do beat 2, which we know exactly what the shape of beat 2 is and what movements are going to happen. The DOP knows the sound. Everyone knows that is this movement and this action. And then you have the freedom of, this is Bobby and Frances, and we can do that. Okay, if we want to shift back to beat 3 and beat 5, I think it helped because it really got to just be like, this is our shape, this is exactly how we're doing it, and I don't have to like get into how I, Sasha, feel about this movement, because I've already established what that movement is and what that shape is.
It's like choreographing like a dance, or like a fight scene, essentially.
That's great. Well, again, I want to congratulate you all on a fantastic series. I want to thank you so much on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation for taking time to talk to your fellow artists today. It's so appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you for
so
having
much
us.
for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you.